everyone.
Hey, it took away my talk.
You just set me up.
I didn't set you up. That was our I'm playing with the countdown timer because
I like it.
we didn't watch the ball drop, but here we are with Total Health Live in 2021. My slogan: I am Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of drvogelmann.com and our digital agency Maximize Your Media. With me, as always, only this time in the brand new year, is
me.
Who are you, me?
I'm Monika.
You're Monika.
And what I was going to say, we did have the ball drop all of 2020. Yes. Constant ball dropping.
Somebody dropped the ball.
And it continues. It continues. In the first week of the year, it has been quite a memorable week on all many fronts.
Except that tomorrow, when the Buffalo Bills play the Indianapolis Colts, they will not drop the ball.
Spoken like a true Buffalo.
My hometown team. Go.
What do you call them? Buffaloans or
Buffalonians?
Or buffoons?
They're not buffoons.
Buffaloons?
Buffalonian.
Well, my province.
It's like a Washingtonian from Washington.
My province, the animal is the bison. And in fact, my university was the University of Manitoba Bisons.
There you go. And the AAA baseball team in Buffalo that I think it doesn't feed the Mets. It might feed it either feeds the New York Yankees or the Pittsburgh Pirates. I can't remember. Anyway, but they are called the Buffalo Bisons. They have a very nice stadium in downtown Buffalo.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because we were watching the Washington team, and I'm like,
Washington football team.
Washington D. Okay. Of course, it was the Redskins, right? They don't have a name anymore.
We don't do that anymore. We don't say Redskins.
Well,
only with potatoes. Only with potatoes do we say.
We have to refer
to the Washington football team.
There is a history. There is a past. We can't just mum's the word. We can't say there isn't any history or past.
You can whitewash red skins. Bleach them before you.
Yeah. So anyway. How was your 2 weeks off, Christopher?
Quiet. Very quiet.
Wish I could say the same. I wish I could say. But
you have a tale to tell before.
I have many tales to tell, but
which one do you want? Which one do you want to tell? We just watched. What was it? Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper. Watching Anderson Cooper get drunk on shots. That was our New Year's celebrations.
Well, I mean, I think I was in bed at 10:30 that night because I was so exhausted from everything. I mean,
we prefer celebrating East Coast time because, in fact, here in the local senior centers and the yacht club on the island, that's what they do. All these elderly people get together, and as soon as it turns 9 o'clock and the ball is dropped in Times Square, they all go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did that last year too, and then I came downstairs. My husband was like, "Oh, where are you? We were waiting for you, Mitzi, my cat, and I were waiting for you." So anyway, it was anyway. The saga, the most important saga, and since we talk about COVID all the time, every week when we're on the show, the most. I'm not sure if horrific is the right word, but the most
disturbing, upsetting, unnerving
nightmare is
an unnerving nightmare.
24-hour nightmare specifically, but to get COVID testing. For
what's it take?
Someone who doesn't ambulate, for one, and who is dependent on his dialysis treatment. And if he doesn't get the testing, he can't have dialysis treatment. And if he can't have dialysis treatment, guess what happens?
You die.
Yeah. And so his nephrologist had said, you need to stay away from the ER because it's 2 to 3 day wait for a room. And of course, he needs to have a room in order to have dialysis in the hospital. So it was just like really impossible suggestions or options, because they weren't even options at all.
Mhm.
Which led me onto a nightmarish chase to find out where we could get testing for this. Well, where we could get testing first and foremost, and
Because they don't have it at the dialysis center.
they do not, which I think is unconscionable. And yes, it is. And I use those choice words when I spoke to them. Anyway,
were those the words you used, or did they have 4 letters?
No, I did.
Oh.
I did retain
You're
some level of decency.
You got down a level of decency.
Some level, but you know, when you have words and a vocabulary, you don't have to succumb to, you know, profanities, right? So
depends. It depends.
You don't have to. Not that
you don't have to.
Can,
it is a choice.
And not that you won't, but you don't have to. Anyway, so it was quite a journey, and I called a transportation company. Like, first of all, he requires specific transportation because he has an electric wheelchair, which weighs like 200 pounds, if not more. So I can't put him in my car. But anyway, so I called a transportation company, and the receptionist there said, "Oh, there's an urgent care that does testing." So that was one of my one of my third or fourth calls. And then, of course, I got the headquarters of this urgent care, and the urgent cares, most of them were running out of tests. Or had run out of tests for that day. And the one that didn't was a 3 to 4 hour wait. So here's my husband finishing off a 5-hour dialysis treatment, and then having to wait 3 or 4 hours. No. So then I thought, well, what happens to people who are homebound? Well, how about home health agencies? Surely they can come into the home and do some of this testing. Or hospice, what do they do for hospice? Do they just not care? You know, many thoughts were rolling around in my brain about how inept and how, I mean, it's not like this thing just happened 2 weeks ago. This has been, this is a pandemic that's been around most of last year and continues, of course.
Yeah, at least March through now.
For them to not, for no one to be prepared for something like this is there are no words. There are no words. Anyway, so I went on this journey, a nightmare journey. And of course, none of the home health agencies do this. In fact, one home health agency came back to me the following day and said, we don't do that sort of thing. That sort of thing.
But they will do blood draws and stuff, won't they?
Well, they do not do that sort of thing. They don't. I don't even know if they do.
Do they ever provide lab work in the house, in the home, or no?
No, they do not. They don't.
You would think that somebody would be, even an LPN could do a blood draw. Or
an LVN, yeah. Well, no, we have LVNs here, but no. I mean, I even had the supervisor of Quest, who I happen to have my own issue with Quest operations, because I wanted to get some blood work done, and the kiosk said I didn't have an appointment. It was confirmed many times, so I did that 3 times, and finally, I mean. Like, it was just chaos. Every step of the way, anything to do with medical was absolute chaos. So they don't do testing at Quest. None of the urgent cares. I even called my insurance company, and they said, "Oh, we don't know where you can get testing done."
Actually, it's funny you say that, because we had a situation where we were looking at testing and we just gave up on it because it's not readily available. I think the going rate around town, just south of here at urgent care, it's $150 each time you get the test.
And who's got money like that? I mean, there are a lot of people on, Medicaid and other, that need this kind of testing, that should get this. And there's all this lip service on in the media about, like, we have lots of testing available, I called this 211 resource number, and they said, "Oh, you could come to LAX and wait for 5 hours, and it's $125." Yeah, so there's a lot of people that cannot I mean, man,
There are free testing sites in San Diego, but the problem is that you do have to
it's a wait.
often wait for 2 hours, 3 hours or so.
Well,
But
yeah,
they're
everything
free.
is
They're
waiting.
free though.
Yeah,
So,
everything you were waiting everywhere you have to wait.
yeah.
But with those sites, because we have them here also at some of the colleges and libraries, they're not rapid results. So it can
No,
take 3 to
you
5
wait
days. My
several days.
husband had to get, this was Wednesday, and the next day was New Year's Eve, and his dialysis treatment was set for his next one was set for Saturday. And so there was New Year's Day in between there. So it was emergency. And everyone I spoke to, anywhere I came, it's an emergency. Like I should have had a siren on my forehead. There was a doctor who would come to your home and do a rapid test for $600. So, yeah.
That's not bad. You could get do they give you a price break if you do 4 of them?
I don't know. At that point,
She said you get 2,000, four tests for 2,000 as opposed to paying 2,400.
Well, what happened is I called this very professional number, and there was a kid. Well, this is kind of normal in the work at home environment. There's a child in the background. And then he said $600, and I said, "You've got to be kidding!" And the phone was hung up. Okay, so there you go. End of story. Finally, I had to, figure this out. And
So what was the solution?
I had to figure this out and pray that we would get results, and hopefully the results were negative. So I had to get him in my SUV with the help of 2 of my aides the next morning before the site opened at 9:00. So we got there at 8, and of course there was a lineup. And so the whole thing lasted 3 hours. And so we got home.
Better than the 5 hours at LAX.
Well, yeah, I mean, by that time, that was when I was investigating that whole scenario, was 4:00 in the evening, 4 or 5, 6:00 in the evening. So people were lining up all day. So this was first thing in the morning. There was a lineup. It was next to Starbucks.
Was this New Year's Day or Saturday?
No, this was New Year's Eve day, the day of New Year's Eve.
Oh, New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So anyway, by 1:00 that day, I got the result of being negative. I faxed it to the dialysis center, and all was well. But to put people through that kind of thing and not to have accessibility for something so vital, especially when they're turning people away from surgeries and dialysis, which is, life and death treatment, this should not be the case.
Yeah, I think it's everything has exceeded capacity. I know that here.
But I don't think several places. I don't think they were ever ready.
There's a place is it in Imperial Valley? I can't remember.
See, this is my point. There's a place, maybe there's nobody knows. There's such uncertainty.
No. But this is a place that a couple weeks ago was at 120% capacity. It's now around 135% capacity.
Are we talking about a hospital?
Hospitals, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, hospitals are, and they've got people in the ER waiting.
They're in there. People are being set up. They're setting up ICUs in gift shops nowadays.
Well, I also read that emergency services are not taking. I don't know if this is real or if this is.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a triage.
They're not taking people that are not going to make it.
It's true now. The ambulance people have to basically triage. Does this person have a good chance of survival or not? And if not, then they decide to leave the person where they are, because when there are no more beds. So you have people, and doctors hate doing this, making decisions as to who lives and who dies.
Well, of course they do. I mean, how can you live with that? It's like.
It's going to be a lot of PTSD healthcare workers after this is all over.
Well, I think that's happening already. I mean, but I guess my major point is, and I know there's a political involvement with all of this too, the chaos. I mean, I was sharing this with my family in Canada, and they just couldn't believe that this is going on. It's not that way there, it's so much more organized and so much
Oh
more
yeah.
thought out, and they know what to do. They know the steps to take. So,
And it's rather egalitarian. I mean, you're not going to have somebody say, "Yeah, I can come to your house and test you. It's going to cost you $600."
no, everyone gets what they need.
No.
I mean, there are some draconian measures being taken. In my hometown, they were like fining people. What was it? Like $1,300? I mean, was it that much? I can't remember, but it was a
For
lot
parties or for not wearing a mask or
for
what?
not for gathering during the holidays. If they were sort of like vigilante kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just if you want to stop the spread, you have to stop these gatherings of
I
people.
guess you have to be serious. I mean, you have to, you have to hit people where it hurts. I guess that's
Hit them in the pocketbook.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, and of course, Australia is back in lockdown, and they were like home free, and then boom.
And don't forget the UK.
Well, yeah, they've never been out.
Mid-February.
I mean, they've never been I mean, not like the images that I was sharing with you before, where I knew people who were sending pictures of, they're out walking in the park with a lot of other people, or in swimming pools with a lot of no masks. It was like Mecca. I was like, Mecca, is that the right word? It's like paradise.
It could be if you're going on your Hajj.
It was like paradise, it was like normal. So anyway.
Well, I mean, but you do have variants. There's also a South African variant that apparently is even more transmissible than the UK one that is now here in California as well as in Colorado.
I don't know what to say. One of my aides had the vaccine, the first part of it, and got it. No, she
got it after?
Like 3 days later. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe it's 95% effective, and she's part of the 5%.
No, I did say I did say it. Weren't you immune after the vaccine? She said, no, I have to wait for the next dose.
Yeah, 2 rounds.
So they're not immune, and even if they do get it, they're not really immune. They just have lessened symptoms. Their symptoms are less. So it is utter chaos. And the media feed doesn't help it much either. And there's just a lot of misinformation. Not that I'm trying to say that we have the right information. In fact, we do, because there are things we can do besides some of the health things which would be calming your mind in any way you can.
Well, calming your mind, making sure you got the right supplements. I know that, having, like, I guess it was Metagenics has the ultra potent C, but you can actually get ester C, which is the main component of that, where you have vitamin C that behaves as if it's a fat soluble vitamin. So it hangs around your cell membranes and gives you more protection than regular water-based vitamin C, ascorbic acid.
Yeah. So it goes right into the cells quicker.
It hangs out for a long time, protecting you from evil.
So we're being onslaughted in many ways. I mean, everything I just described, or other things that happened, like my poor little cat has a cone on her neck.
A cat cone.
A cat cone.
I prefer an ice cream cone.
She has an infection, but she had an issue. But so these are circumstances, right? So how can we manage? I was asking for a I'd like to have some dull moments.
Some dull moments?
Dull moments, or, calmer moments. And, of course there are calm moments within a store. When you're in a storm, you're in the eye of the
eye of the hurricane. But the backside of the hurricane often has stronger winds than the first side that you've
It's like the aftershocks in an earthquake, right?
Aftershocks and earthquakes. Yeah, boy. I've experienced those several times.
Yeah, so have I.
Well, you more than me. But
yeah, I was here for the when was it? 1994, Northridge.
Yeah. I was back. It was, what was it? 86, 87, 89. Where was it? The big one in San Francisco where they flattened.
That was in 89. That's just before I moved 89. Here.
I was there for the earthquakes. But not the earthquake, I should say, for the aftershocks. Yeah. And some of those aftershocks were absolutely disturbing in terms of, I felt all the furniture move in the house at one time.
Yeah, I moved down here and drove through there like a week after it happened. I'm like, do I really want to move down here? But my first earthquake was it was like I was living in Toronto in Canada, and I felt my first earthquake there, and it came from Montreal, which is very odd to have earthquakes over there. But
it is, but it does happen. I was in
it does
DC.
happen.
I was in DC during an earthquake that happened in Virginia, and all the cranes were swaying back and forth at the construction sites. And I was in a Mercedes S-Class, a fancy schmancy car from a fellow who was driving us around looking at real estate locations for a new office. And the car just started bucking up and down and I thought that his engine was seizing up because he hadn't changed his oil. But then you look around and all the other cars are bouncing up and down.
That's interesting.
And it was so strange to be in a car during that earthquake. And but everybody came out of all the buildings, and we were near a major mall in Bethesda, Maryland, and it was just watching, but seeing those construction towers going back and forth, just like palm trees swaying in the breeze. Yeah. That was something else. Let me tell you.
It's so unusual because usually when you're driving, you don't feel the earthquake.
No, we were stationary.
Okay, you were
at a stoplight,
right?
And all the cars are bouncing. It's as if you were in East LA and everybody had the hydraulics going on their cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's scary stuff. Scary
right, but you just don't expect that in Washington D.C. So
yeah.
It's more, but I've felt several ones here. And I mean, it's just seeing the swaying of the light fixtures and things like that, but nothing major because we're in San Diego County is much better off than say LA County. We're farther from faults.
San Andreas, yeah. I was going to say last year, but of course last year was 2020. But in 2019, of course, we had two around July, the 4th, and that was pretty scary for sure. But anyway, what's going to shake your world up this year?
I'm not going to shake my booty for you.
And I think we have some questions that have come in recently.
I question who these people are. Oh no, here's from Santa Rosa.
Santa Rosa, California. Speaking of the
St. Rose
Bay Area.
From Santa Rosa is Santa Sheila.
Yeah.
Sheila asks, with all this ongoing threat to our immune systems, what's the best way to keep your immune system strong?
Well, just like Christopher was saying, that vitamin C is really good.
Vitamin D3 you mentioned too.
Vitamin D3, here's one.
The sunshine.
5,000 IUs. Quercetin.
Is 5,000 enough? Is 5,000 enough though? Because
some people say 10,000.
Yeah.
I'm working with an Ayurvedic doctor, and she's saying absolutely don't take any because it can mess with your hormones. And the philosophy of Ayurveda is very different. And it's not high potency like we do have in a lot of our Western types of supplements.
Well, but it's also not homeopathic either. So
no, it's not homeopathic, but the rule of thumb is food and herbs. And but get your levels checked before you start, taking dosages, or get out in the sun in the morning. In fact, I did 186, my Polar, which is my Fitbit, but it's not a Fitbit, it's a Polar. It says 186%, and it's only 1 o'clock ish.
It's only 1 o'clock.
So I've done 186% of my steps already. So I went out for my morning walk. So that's a great way to get vitamin D. Zinc is also very essential for the immune system.
Think zinc.
Oil of oregano is more for an acute situation.
Yeah.
Like I was feeling a little bit of a sniffles the other day, and I started popping this a couple of times a day, and I'm feeling, it's nothing's really happening. Also, if you do start feeling a little bit of sore throat or something like that, there's a wonderful homeopathic called I was going to say L'Occitane, which is a French skincare line. But no, it's not that. It is another.
The Boiron?
It's oxalococcinum.
Yeah, oxalococcinum. I used to
or Oscillo, as
Yep.
some say.
I used to recommend oscillococcinum to all my patients all
Yeah.
the time because I didn't carry it in the office because I just felt it was available over the counter.
So even with all this craziness about COVID, these things are still happening. You might have the sniffles. You might have,
You
some.
can catch a cold. I
You
mean,
can catch a cold. Yes, you can.
you can have an allergy if you want to.
Yeah, you can catch a cold and all those other things. So there are really wonderful supplements out there. But I think we've kind of named the basics. Your vitamin C, your quercetin.
Yep.
Certainly garlic is important, garlic capsules or garlic in your food. Ginger is really great. Turmeric, not specifically for immune health, but definitely for just good health in general.
Yeah.
And a reduction of inflammation for the turmeric will help you with that. So I hope that gives you some ideas. So that's the supplement protocol, or that's
I've got to give a shout out to one of my very distant relatives. Marley Vogelmann, who shared our broadcast.
Wow.
I thought that is just great.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Very happy. This is someone, by the way, whom I've never met before.
Well, thank you, Marley.
I collect Vogelmann.
Marley and me.
Yeah, I collect Vogelmanns like some people collect baseball cards.
But there aren't that many Vogelmanns, are there?
No, there are very few because most of my relatives were burned at the stake in the 1590s by the Catholics in the Counter-Reformation in southern Germany for being Protestants in a Catholic world.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
So they didn't wipe all of us out.
I hear that happened in Switzerland too, because my ancestors also had to flee to Switzerland because of similar things.
Yeah.
So
we have a strong rebel streak, which probably explains why my dad became a chiropractor and other things like that. But anyway, back to our questions. Yeah, they didn't wipe us out.
Yeah, so we're talking about strength, whether it's rebel strength or immune strength, it's all strength. So yeah, and of course the basics, we went through the supplements. Your food needs to support you, the healthier the food, the more natural and whole and real the food, the more it's going to support your immune system.
Maybe getting a social media detox too.
Yeah, and
or a news detox.
Water, drinking, being hydrated.
Yes, water.
Mm-hmm. These are all important things.
I am the pitcher of health.
Yes, you are the pitcher of health. That's
pitcher of health. All right, let's see. I think we've answered that one.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a good.
It's just a lot of things. It's nutritional, it's emotional, it's mental. It's about the things that you focus on. I don't think there is any one best way, but I think it's just a question of having enough self-worth that you take good care of yourself.
And try and stay away from the sugar.
Yeah, sugar is not so fun.
That's going to compete with vitamin C absorption, and you want that more for your cells than the sugar, which is going to deplete.
Hey, so from the other coast, the right coast, Victoria from Tampa is here, who says she lost weight before the holidays, but is having a hard time getting back on track. What can I do to make this happen?
Well, yeah. So you have a track record. You were on track.
Do what you did before.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the holidays sort of like they take you off kilter a little bit, and especially, I mean, this holiday season. But this holiday season was very unusual, so you were able to be at home more and take better care of yourself. But I think in some ways, many people probably just said, I need to just do whatever I want to
I need to sugar up, Buttercup.
Yeah. I need something outside of myself and my good habits to make me feel better.
I want to be a bad boy.
Or for whatever reason. Yeah. I mean, it could be for whatever reason. Maybe you were having cocktails with family over Zoom, or
you might have had, Zoom happy hour.
Zoom happy hour. There you go. So, you can either say, I'm starting on Monday and I'm going to start a fresh week. You could also say, I'm going to start introducing some of those habits or some of those things that I was doing before, like
Or
just
I'm starting in 30 seconds.
or starting in 30 seconds, or also get some support.
Yeah.
Having people join you on this journey is I think it's one of the most important things to get you back on track, for sure.
Yeah,
So
accountability. Also, you to your small group of friends or relatives, whoever you choose to hang out with.
Sometimes you need to find those groups. Sometimes they're not in your small circles. Sometimes sometimes you have to pay for those kinds of groups and to join those sorts of groups as well. So find it, because it will be a little more powerful. I remember hearing, I can't remember the percentages, but the percentages are much higher if you're getting that support and accountability with other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having run a weight loss clinic in DC, I can tell you that by and large, the greatest amount, I would say, gosh, it's almost like 75, 80% or more of any sort of a weight loss or, fat reduction really involves the mental emotional state.
Yeah.
And it's your desire to make a decision and to move with your choices.
Yeah, and I am, yeah, absolutely. And I also ask you, Victoria, maybe you haven't, well, you know that you've gained some weight, right? Did she say how much she gained?
She does not give a number. She
So
just
maybe,
says she lost weight.
so maybe you have been sort of avoiding the scale just because you don't feel good. I would get on it. I would start using some sort of tracking devices to sort of give you a reality check, like this too, something like this. I don't know. I certainly saw a lot of people on their bikes New Year's Day. It was like,
Oh
a
man!
lot of people are out there.
By the way, speaking of bikes, the Peloton site is just blowing up these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's at home
Gyms, home fitness, the whole thing. That's, in fact, in the marketing world, where I also have one foot in there, that's one of the big things right now, is any sort of home fitness. So,
it's interesting, because before COVID, everything shut down. And in February, I had my recumbent bike being advertised on this thing called this site called Nextdoor. It's like a local Craigslist. Yeah. And there was a lot of interest, but there's a lot of like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that much and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I bet I could sell it for more right now.
You could now, because but it's fascinating to see one of those trends. So the trends really have been towards home fitness, towards cooking at home. I mean, these are the actual segments. We're not talking in terms of health, but these are the segments that you as a consumer are being marketed to right now.
Well, I tell you, I have just been cooking up a storm, because I did that detox in November. And
how many pumpkin recipes did you have?
I still have 3 pumpkins that I need to cook, but pumpkin is so healing anyway. So it's such a great food to have, in your diet. I've been watching this marketing person for years and years, and on Instagram, she's got her marketing stuff, and then she also does cooking. She lives in France. I'm sure everyone knows or might have heard of Fabienne Fredrickson. But I love her cooking segments. I just can't get enough of it. It's like she does these little Instagram videos, and they're just wonderful to watch. And she looks like a great cook.
To say nothing of the wonderful Instagram stories and IGTVs from Mama Maggie's Kitchen.
I saw that. I saw the tamales
right downstairs.
Today. I saw the tamales on Instagram today.
We did so many. We had so many tamales, and they were really good. I can tell you that we had so many that were vegetarian tamales and vegetable tamales.
Can you send me some?
Yeah, well, they're probably spoiled by the time they get to you.
I had 2 people say, we're going to give you tamales. And of course they were out for the entire holiday season.
They were out.
Yeah. They were not feeling well. Well, one was the tonsillectomy gone wrong person. So
the first tamale I had ever had in my life, I was on a Mexican plate by accident, and I actually tried chewing the corn husk. I was such an ignorant gringo at the time.
Well, I too, when I first, I never did that, but
I was trying to cut through it, and I was like, this is really chewy.
Yeah, I can't remember if my husband showed me how to do it or how to do it, or I just watched him. But yeah, if they're good, they're good, and there are some that are so dry. So
That's because you didn't use they didn't have the right masa recipe.
yeah, and I think it's the ones that you find in the stores. Like I know,
That's not nothing
that's
like the homemade ones.
really, yeah.
It's a communal project too. You get the entire
It's
family
big.
together, and you have stations like, here are your corn husks, and here's the masa being spread on here, and here's the person doing the filling, here's the person wrapping, here's the person sticking it in the pots. And so we learned a lot in that. I mean, it's the type of thing where it's definitely not keto friendly because of the masa is basically corn, but it is gluten free. So, I mean, for some people, it's a healthy alternative to other things that they might have.
Well, I'm not a big fan of crazes, keto, paleo. I mean, they have some elements that are good, but I mean, if you're doing vegetarian, you're not going to be keto because you're going to be eating a lot of vegetables and grains, which I think it's a healthy way to go. But this whole tamale preparation reminds me of when I grew up, my mother making pierogies.
It's probably a similar type of
very
communal family activity. Everybody's got something to do.
It sometimes is, but she used to do like 24 dozen, 30 dozen at a time.
24 dozen?
Yeah.
Where did she store them? The roots?
We had a huge deep freezer. Huge. Well, there were 10 people.
Oh yeah.
Well, you had to store.
Store it.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of storing, I think we got to go to
another store.
Another story.
Story.
We probably will save some of these for next time round, I think.
Yeah, we have a lot to say today.
We're very, because we haven't spoken for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mike from Toronto. That is in Canada, is it not? Toronto. I was a foreign student in Toronto at one point.
You've been everywhere, haven't you, Christopher?
I've been everywhere. I get around.
You have been getting around.
I did live in Toronto. In fact, my nephew, Brian James, now lives in Toronto, as a matter of fact. So Mike from Toronto.
My sister lives there.
Well, there you go. See, maybe they should meet up. A little coffee. Takeout only.
People aren't doing that, and she is married, so.
It's okay. So is he. So I was like,
but people aren't doing that. They aren't getting together.
He's a great photographer, though.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So Mike from Toronto, boy, we really are going off tangents. Mike from Toronto is asking,
even with an outline.
This is with an outline for today, so we don't miss anybody. But we have others that we can talk about.
We are this first week.
It's just like the goal for me this year is to get her done in 21. That's my new slogan.
Or have fun in 21.
Well, that too, but I want to get her done. I want to accomplish things. I can have fun all the time and do nothing. Mike from Toronto.
Mike, what do you have to say?
North of the border. I'm assuming it's in Ontario. He says, I'm feeling lethargic after the holidays and don't want to do much. With all the news of COVID and politics, et cetera, it's hard to feel positive. Any suggestions? Well, we already suggested that you do a detox from perhaps social media and a lot of the news, because that's feeding into fear and your fight or flight mechanism is being triggered. And for some people, it's almost like with the whole COVID thing, they're getting elements of PTSD without even being a frontline worker. So it's important to put your oxygen mask on first, as they say, before helping anyone else. And so the question is, how much self-care are you willing to do for yourself? And I don't know that you're going to change everything in the world by focusing intensely on CNN or Fox News or OAN or MSNBC or any of those news outlets.
Well, we don't even know if he's trying to save the world. We just know that he's being it's hard to avoid. I mean, I didn't know what happened the other day until my husband's dialysis transportation driver told me what happened at the Capitol a few weeks ago. And I'm like, I cannot deal with anything else. I'm dealing with
I have to tell you, I was completely fascinated by the whole thing because I used to walk to Capitol Hill on a fairly regular basis, and I've walked through those halls of Congress on several occasions. So the idea of all that stuff happening, I mean, that was like, if you pardon my French, that's like the shit show and the dumpster fire in a train wreck underneath a plane crash.
Yeah. So just because you've been in this building,
I mean, I have an emotional connection to that building because I've been there so many times and met congressmen and senators and other.
It's definitely not about the building. It's about
it's about the symbolism and what it represents.
Exactly.
And,
so of course,
yeah.
After I found out about it, of course, I had to, find out about it more and, listen to people's opinion who I respect and, get a little bit of a different perspective than what you're seeing on the mainstream media about what's going on. But yeah, it's a lot, isn't it, Christopher? It's just a lot.
Yeah. And I do, despite the fact that I have such an intimate knowledge. And I mean, I've been into the architect of the Capitol too, where they have all the old designs and showing you all kinds of things. I mean, so there's certain areas where there's no longer any public access. And so to me, it is one of those things where I have identified, I have an emotional connection to it. So with that identification comes either pain or pleasure because of the emotional connection. And the same thing is true with, you see it with sports teams and with your hometown and other things, that you suffer the pain or pleasure of a win or a loss for your favorite team.
And interesting because Mike is from Toronto, so it's impacting not only people who live here, but everywhere, the whole world.
Yeah, and but of course, as my usual tangential aside, there are a lot of Toronto people who have season tickets to the Buffalo Bills, and we do appreciate you coming down there. They spend a lot of money from Toronto in Buffalo. So.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Mike, we're all in this together, believe it or not. And but yeah, definitely taking yourself, because it's nonstop.
Well, and focus on the good. There always is something good happening in the world. It just,
and in your life, and
gratitude is a major thing, that you're grateful for the fact the sun rose this morning. You're grateful that you have clothes on, a roof over your head, and that you are not one of the over 1 billion people who woke up on a dirt floor today.
And I think just taking one step that'll help you feel better about yourself. I mean, and when I say one step, going out for a walk.
Yeah, like extremely helpful.
Just start, because that will make you feel so much better. And then the next day, the next day, the next day. I mean, just doing something simple like that will help you shift your mindset and make you feel better.
Yeah. Well, Maggie and I have one solution too, which is when everything's get too overwhelming, we just crank up the tunes and we have a major dance party in the kitchen.
There you go.
In Mom and Maggie's kitchen.
Music knows the savage breast or beast.
Music hath charms to soothe the savage breast, but some people say beast.
They do say
the original was the breast. Well, because it was where the heart was. I mean, they mean the whole chest area. So.
Exactly. It's soul. It touches the soul.
The soul, because your heart is beneath there too, within there.
So music, there's nothing like music.
Music is great. And if you crank up the tunes, I mean, that can do a lot. You have to have, Mike, some favorite tunes, favorite movies. I mean, the one movie that is one of my favorites is It's a Wonderful Life. And this is the first holiday season in a long time I haven't seen that, but I did see Charlie Brown's Christmas. It's a Charlie Brown Christmas. And so I hadn't seen that in a couple of years. So.
My two favorites are It's a Wonderful Life. So check on that. And then Christmas Story.
We did watch Christmas Story. And I do have, this is the TMI moment, I do have underwear that says I triple dog dare you. Totally true. Totally true. So
I do believe you. I was singing some German Christmas carols with my mother over the phone, and now I cannot get one of them out of my mind. I'm singing it all the time. And it's... Well,
that's better than singing the COVID blues all the time.
Have you created lyrics for that one?
I should, because I have the detoxification blues.
Yeah. Too soon. I think it's too soon. In fact, I'm sure Penn Holdress and the Holdress family have penned that already.
Oh, they have plenty of stuff like that already. That's one of my wife's favorite, is to see what the Holderness
I
family
think
is
you're
doing.
frozen in time.
No, I'm actually okay.
You're hilarious.
You're fine.
Hilarious.
So,
okay,
right, so
I see you moving now.
We've pretty much, well, it's interesting because I'm wondering if it's your connection, because it was perfect. I could hear you telling me that I was frozen in time and everything.
Well, it was just extremely momentary. And that's another sort of symbolism of what we're trying to say, or symbolic of what we're trying to say.
Freeze.
A lot of these things are just moments in time. They're just moments in time, and you can create better moments in your time, in your life. So walking, music, whatever it takes. So I hope we get to start, and I'm looking forward to doing this journey with you this year in 2021, helping you on your health journey. And
get her done in 21. Head over to Coaching for Health if you want to contact Monika. You can reach us here well, actually, you know what? You can join Total Health Live, it is a private group.
Yeah, private.
And some more access to what we're talking about here. And please put your comments, your questions underneath here, or you can even reach us on Facebook Messenger. You can reach Monika on the Coaching for Health page. You can reach me at the Dr. Vogelmann page.
And we did talk about support. This is a great place for you to get support, because then you start supporting each other. We start supporting each other. We start supporting you. It's just a wonderful community.
Support is important. Cross your heart.
Cross your heart. All right.
I think we're done.
Time.
We're done for today. We'll be back here next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Although, we started a little late today, but that's because Facebook wouldn't play nice. But we'll see you later.
See you later.
Healthy.
Bye.